All right, we'll go ahead and get started this evening, and we'll start with roll call.
Sorry. Rob Keller.
Here.
Tim Mills.
Here.
Sue Wilson. Here. Ben Metzger.
Here.
Matt Rankin. We have a quorum.
And we'll go ahead with the good news.
Okay. Well, I think, I collect this for a couple weeks at a time, so we get a big variety of things. Sometimes I'm a little bit behind schedule, so there are things that are recent that haven't made it to the good news. Jazz Show Encounter was last weekend. We had a district girls bowling champ. Vicki Andrews bowls for Lincoln. I had 3 state wrestling placers. I have the wrestlers in here later, but Ryder Downey was the state champ. Bowen Downey was 3rd place, and Walker Whelan 5th. And then girls basketball team plays for a trip to state tonight at 7 o'clock, one last Saturday. So I'll move quickly through this other good news, and we'll hopefully run a good, efficient board meeting, and people get to the ball game if they want to go. What I had in this packet then, I had the 8th grade Team Pride Awards. I had some results from show choir at Norwalk event. During National School Counselor Week, one of our middle school counselors, Lacey Chernus, was highlighted by the Department of Education. Had a link to that story in there. There's some information about Drake Honor Jazz Band. There was a link to a story about Isaiah Picard, one of our boys swimmers, who actually was the first para-state champ. We have a little picture there of our Educator of the Year from the Chamber, Kent Halstead. There was some artwork from Irving Elementary Cafeteria pictured in the School Nutrition Association newsletter. Then I have some results from Jazz 1 and Jazz 2, our 7 state wrestling qualifiers, a little story about Irving Elementary doing Valentine's for people in care centers, a rundown of middle school math counts and how they did in that competition, and then several singers that we had at state wrestling. So quite a variety of things. It's a busy time of year. We're getting toward that end of the season for a lot of things. There's a lot going on.
Thanks, sir. Any other board members have any reports or anything?
Just watch your emails for something from somebody. We're waiting just from the movie theater on a confirmation from their rental department or whatever, so at the corporate level. So Chris and I are talking, so hopefully we can secure that date sooner than later. But when we get it, we're going to want to push it out pretty fast because we're almost a month away. So, or we are, exactly.
Who would get that? Who would get that email, do you think?
I would probably send it to you guys, the 4 of you.
You'll get it first.
Yeah, probably from Chris. That's who I've been communicating with, so.
The date is actually March.
22nd. Is what we're shooting for. He seemed to think there was no problem, but he's waiting to hear from corporate.
Oh, all right. Any delegations, petitions, communications? All right. Next, we have our consent agenda.
A couple of things in there. You have middle school show choir. That's out of state, although it's not an overnight. And then I know last meeting you had a research request. There's another similar one. One of our teachers working on her doctorate. We'll do some research.
Just need a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Sue. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is our presentations from our food service department.
Yeah, come on over here, and then the adoring public can hear you if you speak to the microphone there too.
Well, I'm Abby Costigan. I'm the food service director here for the district. I first want to thank you for inviting me to come speak to you about our department and the great things that are happening this year and previous years. So, of course, increased participation has been huge the last 2 years. Now with meals being free, we have a lot more students taking advantage of the free meals and for breakfast and lunch. Just to give you an idea of what that is, I pulled some numbers. So pre-COVID, so this would be 1920, year, our district served from August to like right now to the end of January, or what these numbers are based off of. So pre-COVID, our district served around 148,000 lunches. Compared to this year, we are at 222,000. So big jump. And then last year was kind of in the middle. And so obviously with breakfast, that has also went up about 50%. So pre-COVID, as a district, we served approximately about 36,000 breakfasts, and this year we are about 95,000. So continue to encourage students to take advantage of the breakfast and lunch that are free, and the new menu items that we try to get in stock and serve. So we appreciate all taking advantage of that. So talk a little bit about our summer program. So when COVID started, we offered a grab and go option. It does look like this year the USDA and the state is probably going to push us back to congregate meals. So the grab and go option won't necessarily be available again this year, most likely, but we'll go back to having eligible sites at our 2 elementaries and welcoming the community to take part in that. So have that coming up. New things across the district. We offer breakfast and lunch kiosks at our high school, which has definitely increased our participation at that particular building. It allows for more students to have access to meals for the grab and go options, because that age level, they're coming and going all the time. So having those at different areas in our building has definitely helped. We also have offered a second entree option for our elementary students. So I'm sure you've heard about maybe our yogurt meal. That is the alternate entree that is available for the grain and protein component of the menued items. So basically they can get, instead of the chicken sandwich that's menued that day, they can say, nope, I want a yogurt, and or a yogurt meal, and it comes with a yogurt, cheese stick, granola, and fish crackers, and then along with any other fruits and vegetables that are served that day. So that has definitely helped our participation. Another thing is we have started offering salads that count as a reimbursable meal at our high school and middle school, which is very popular not only with students, but with our staff as well. So have had a lot of good feedback on that since. The last thing is our classroom catering, which we started actually last year when we were trying to control what was coming into our buildings. We offered this where parents could reach out to the food service department, pick out whether it's cookies, cupcakes, we're even serving ice cream now, that they can order from us and we would deliver straight to the classrooms. So that was pretty popular last year. This year we're not seeing as much participation with that, but still available. The last thing that I would like to talk about is just the amazing food service staff that the district has here. So I am fairly new to the district. I've been here about 2 years, coming in July, and I couldn't say enough about how amazing the staff is here. They have taken all the challenges of the pandemic, from serving students in the classrooms, bagging fruits and vegetables, saran wrapping apples, to even having the changes of a new director. And they've been amazing, and I can't commend them enough for all their work. So that is it.
And Abby started during COVID.
I
She
did.
came here, didn't we interviewed in the spring
Right?
to start July 1st. So she was new to the district and had to figure out how to do everything in
Yeah.
a different way that she never even knew was different. So she's done a wonderful job. And
Yep. And we did it, so thank you.
Any questions for Abby?
Remind me, I mean, the summer food program, is that ages 3 to 18? Anybody who wants it?
Yes, the normal, yep.
I mean, are there ever any conversations going on in the school system with, it's wonderful that we feed our kids, but what about the moms and dads? Are you guys, I mean, I know we're focused just on students. Are there any talks higher up that you've heard about, anything with that?
I mean, within I mean, we have the food banks and things that the school it usually hosts those.
I'm just talking about
items.
like discounted meals for our associates or our staff or our employees or whoever would want.
Yeah, everything is focused on the students.
Okay.
So there isn't much talk with adult meals within the education or the state side.
I had the opportunity to work with one of your employees over the weekend. I worked the concession stand, so we were in the main cafeteria at the high school, and she was just amazing. And her attitude was so cheery. She's been in our district for 20 years, and she just helped us through because we had no idea where everything went, but she just rocked it, and she was awesome, and she just said there's a reason why she's been here 20 years, so
Yeah.
thank you for everything you do to support them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just was gonna say, pass on our compliments for the good work that they do as well, because there's a lot of other places that people could choose to work, so please pass on the board's appreciation.
Thanks,
It's
Zach.
Eddie.
All right, next is the board curriculum committee meeting report.
When Annette and I were there, our one board member on that committee who was there was Mac.
Ryan does this to me every time.
I think that's why I missed the meeting tonight, Mac.
Probably why. We did meet, and we started 5 minutes early, so that was unusual for us. Couple of I think the takeaways for me was how long our world language curriculum has been in place, and kind of what Annette and our foreign language teachers are doing to kind of bring that up to current standards. We talked a little bit about the cost for new curriculum for Spanish, German, and French, correct? I was a little bit surprised about the cost, but the more and more I thought about it, I think that it's probably pretty much in line with any other program that we're buying curriculum for. The other things that we discussed were science instruction, and specifically K-5, and what that looks like if we were to potentially add staff as a trial program to give elementary-aged students kind of like a special art chorus where on a rotating schedule they would have science specifically. I think that Annette has done a great job of providing information to the committee as well as to Art and the cabinet on why this is beneficial. And if you want to talk more about that, you're welcome to. If not, I can keep going.
Anybody have any questions?
Is this, I think it's a good idea to have some friends in Kansas that they do this at the elementary level, and it really helps because obviously there's a tremendous amount of setup with science at times. So is this for sure going to happen for next year, or is it just still in the planning stage?
We're going to pilot it
Pilot
at
it.
one school next year, and you know, that gives us a chance, obviously, with any pilot to really trial it and get the bugs out and see if it can be successful. But then also, just as we've talked before, you know, we're going to be doing some deficit spending next year, and you know, it's attractive from a financial standpoint to do it in one building, and then if it works well, to scale it hopefully next year or year after. Yeah.
I think it seems like a good combination in the rationale of trying to ease workload for the elementary and increase that planning time. When you take a look at the state mandates that continue to come at all levels, and then pair that with really addressing key instruction. So it just kind of brought a lot of things together in one nice maybe proposal to address multiple areas for that.
And has there been any, a person identified for this? And I guess if the pilot program, hopefully it doesn't go away, hopefully it flourishes and we have one at every building, but would they get their position back, I guess.
You want to speak to that? Maybe you kind of been involved with some of that, haven't you?
Yeah, we posted and I believe that position closed yesterday or closes today, the elementary science position. So we've had some good candidates and Mr. Timmerman will go through that process and select and hire that position.
What do you see as like the measure for, to see if it's successful, and that we want to take it to the other three?
So within the planning document, I have like 5 key areas on that. And one of it is that we really want to have consistency of equity of instruction across the district. So the structure itself should address a lot of the key goals to where we want to make sure we have one high-quality curriculum, consistent minutes, high of the instruction that's taking place. ISASS will be one measurement,
Okay.
but along with that, we'll have what are called formative assessments with the students along the way. We don't have anything to compare it back to, just that one main, I guess, state-level assessment at this point.
Okay.
But when you take a look at all of the other pieces, we want to ask the teachers too, did that intention reduce your workload? Was there too much communication that had to take place, for that person? Is K-5 a doable position with the amount of planning that's being worked in? Those types of kind of qualitative things. I plan on putting out information to the elementary to create a science committee with at least one teacher from each grade level, also including teachers from the buildings that are at Emerson, just for their eyes on it and their involvement. And then if this would scale, they would then have the opportunity to take a look at their own buildings along this next year to say, what are the nuances that are a little bit different from building to building that they could be thinking about. The other piece too is if this wouldn't scale, we still need to build the teacher's knowledge as to what does inquiry-based science instruction mean and look like, because there are connections throughout math, language. We don't want to make it seem like science is a standalone by itself.
Sure. Do you see the time, or the amount of time that the kids receive that instruction changing from this year to next year at that school?
Well, it's all over the place where we're at when we did our survey. Because,
Okay.
for example, on Wednesdays, science might be one of the things that gets removed because we have a shortened day. If they had guidance or library time, science was one of those that would then get impacted because math and reading are kind of more protected in the mornings. So eventually we want to start off with at least 2 sessions every 6-day cycle and work that up to 3.
Okay.
And but I think that quality of it, like how many minutes
Good.
within that.
Cool.
I think it's a great thing. Not only does it put a strong emphasis on science, alleviates the workload from the teachers, but it also probably frees them up a little bit to put a stronger focus on reading and math and writing within their own classrooms. So I think it has tons of benefit beyond science. So it's great.
Any other questions? The last thing that we talked about was the Winter Fast scores had come in. You guys can see those on there. There was some significant improvement from fall to winter in all areas that were reviewed. I lied, there's one more thing, I apologize. The AP Literature and Comp, there's some specific requirements for the AP courses taught at the high school to be given DMAC credit. And currently there's a couple of books that have been utilized for quite some time that aren't necessarily meeting the threshold anymore. And so we discussed what it would look like for additional materials to be available to that specific AP literature course, so that when they take their final exam, they're seeing a pass on that, and they're eligible to get the credit through DMAC.
Any questions for Mac or Annette in regards to the curriculum meeting?
Just on the reading, is it, I assume with kindergartners being their first year in school, is it normal to see like that huge of a jump from fall to winter in their scores?
they typically see an increase to winter and over some of the grade levels, then we see a decline into spring, which we're trying to eliminate that decline into spring. When I went back and looked at, since we collected data since 2015 to 16, we have the highest district average at kindergarten since that time.
This year.
This year.
Yeah.
So with those foundational skills that are within that, we're hoping then to see this as it progresses through multiple years. So the kindergarten team, the at-risk reading teachers, we haven't dug into the special ed movement, which might not be as much right there, but it's the highest since 2016.
Yeah, that's amazing, the amount of growth from fall to winter for the kindergartners. That's pretty cool.
Does Irving, so Irving's year-round, right?
Right.
So do they traditionally track higher on the percentages because of not having that longer break?
Well, at this point, they're essentially neck and neck back with our traditional calendars. So the first one that you saw in the fall, they were about 4 to 5 weeks ahead of us, other buildings when they took theirs, because the state of Iowa doesn't open up the testing when Irving would typically take it a few weeks into school. So they had actually more weeks of instruction in the fall.
Okay.
But this measurement now would be almost equal.
Any other questions from the board on anything? Okay, we'll move on to,
There is one action item
Go ahead.
for that.
oh yeah, that's to approve the curriculum, right?
Yep.
Two actions.
Are there,
Two separate.
can you guys see what page that's on? I think I scrolled past it.
It's on page 38.
Oh, is that where the board action is? Okay. 1 second. No, you're okay. Okay. One more. There we go.
There's pictures.
That's great. Oh, it's so much easier to understand.
There they are.
There we go. Went down a little bit, hit that right, keep on there.
Okay, I see it. 1 and 2.
So I make a motion that we approve the wayside attendance in Spanish curriculum.
Motion made by Sue to approve Wayside, seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Second one is Carnegie. Motion made by Sue,
Second.
seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is the board HR committee meeting report.
Want me to go through? Sure. We just kind of went through, Mimi went through kind of where we're at with open positions that have been open and filled. Kind of see the list there. Updated us on devices for associates, indicating that basically the process has been put in place. Start rolling out devices next year, and that, if I understood right, that doesn't include all associates that need the device to do their job, correct, right? Okay.
A little bit of a clarification too, and if I need to amend the minutes, I certainly can. I mostly wanted you to know that nothing was gonna happen this year. So if you continue to get requests, nothing's gonna happen this year, but we're looking at each of the different types of associates and you know, elementary associates need them, and so we're looking at the process and building the process, and then there's, you know, rules to put in place and how it's used and the training and all that. So we're working on it, and hopefully something will be rolled out to those who need it in the fall. But just wanted some clarification that nothing was going to happen this year was really the intent. So if that's not printed appropriately, if you want me to adjust that, I can amend the minutes if you'd like.
How many associates do we have?
Right about 100.
I think it's important that we have the right process in place. I know I got several phone calls of associates that
were told they're not allowed to be on their phones, but they were told they needed to check their email. And so they were like, well, I'm on my phone to check my email because that's the only device I have to check. So, as we go into those policies and procedures, to make sure maybe we've got some people, associates, maybe involved in some of those conversations. Because then I talked to another associate, she recently got moved at the middle school, and she's like, there's no way I need a device. It's not one, my situation is not one where I need a device. No associate in that room needs a device. But the position she was in previously would be one, so hopefully we can bring in some conversations or input for those that,
Yeah.
those associates that.
And that's kind of the overall, there are lots of parts and pieces and who needs it and who doesn't need it and how much is Ray gonna charge Sarah for the devices and, how does it work into the budget and all of those parts and pieces. And from my standpoint, that they're hourly employees and I don't want them to work when they're at home, so I don't want them to take it home. So there's, where do they keep it and where do they charge it and all of the moving things that we're working through. So I know the way I stated it is we're gonna roll it out. We're working on a process to get it rolled out in hopes that it is, helpful for those who do need it.
Do you envision some criteria that kind of, I know you're talking about the process of rolling it out and having conversations with people, but is there maybe some idea that there's going to be a criteria or almost a rubric that determines whether somebody has that need?
That's definitely more in Sarah's wheelhouse, and I know that's what she's looking at really carefully about, who do you serve? What does the IEP say, which is different for every student and then can even change throughout the year. So maybe she's creating, I don't know, but, if an IEP says X, Y, and Z, then that deems necessary. I don't know what it would look like, but she is definitely looking very specifically at.
An objective, something that's objective, so if somebody comes forward and says, I don't understand why I didn't get one, then there's something objective that says, well, this was the criteria that we used.
This is the reason behind the criteria.
Right.
It's not arbitrary.
Right.
It makes sense because this student doesn't need your help doing X, Y, and Z. So.
Do you anticipate having devices, Ray, or do you think you'll have to purchase them?
I think we'll have devices. Well, I should say, there's a possibility we have devices. We're kind of inventorying some right now, see if we have any that are going to be good enough devices for them. And getting them if we have to order is a whole other story.
We talked a little bit about the superintendent search, which we'll be back here next week to deal with that. And then the decision, we're not going to have our meeting on the 17th because we're going to see each other a lot in the next couple of weeks. That's about it.
Any questions for Ben or Mimi on the HR? Maybe, or Sue? Okay, move on to the District Auxiliary Service Building Project.
Carrie Weig, right, is here from Envision Architecture, and so she's been working hard on getting what we have to put forward for our auxiliary services building. And then we redo it when we say, yeah, this is not going to work. So they went back to the drawing board a couple times when we've asked them to and done a good job. And I'll let her go through. We have 13 pages within that I think that she wants to reference. Yeah, there you go.
Good, thank you, Donna.
Keep up, Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, pay attention.
All right, well, thank you for having me this evening. It's been, I think we've been working on this about 8 months of just trying to work together on site selection and working with the team and thinking about both current needs and future needs so that this building is something that's going to work for the district for years to come and not just suiting just what you need right now. So it's been a great group of people to work with. So thank you to those in the room that we've been collaborating with over the last few months. Some of you may also know Laura Peterson from our office. She's been working on some other strategies with you in the district. She's an Indianola resident, so she's also been working behind the scenes on this project as well. And we're just really excited to get it out on the streets for bidding and then to get this constructed. So this evening, what we wanted to do is just run you through the highlights of the building. We'll try and keep this short. I know you have a ball game to get to, so
Ray, if you wanted to maybe just advance to 2 more slides. Some of this is just giving an overview for those of you that like to dig into drawings. Then I'm just going to give some highlights on the other sheets here. So what's up there on the site plan. So I'm going to give you an idea of I'm sure you're all aware of where this is going to be located. So we're right along 15th Street where current soccer fields are located. So in order for the building to be constructed there, we're going to need to relocate some soccer fields, and so the tennis courts are going to be repurposed for soccer fields. And so what we have here, we'll be utilizing the existing parking lot for a zoned area for bus parking now, and then we'll be building an approximately 22,000 square foot building that will suit maintenance space, a wash bay, and then also be an administrative facility, as you're aware, for food service, for facilities, for IT, and then our technology, and then and transportation, of course. Sorry about that. So we're trying to minimize the amount of disruption to your existing site to keep costs down. There are some improvements that the city is going to require. We've been working through that zoning process with the city, and that's going well. And there will be some new plantings required along 15th Street, so you're aware of that, to provide some kind of privacy screening for your residential and your neighbors across the street. So,
when do you anticipate the destruction of the demolition of the tennis courts and replacement of the soccer? Would that be at the beginning of the project or at the end? Just so Soccer Tribe knows when.
Yeah, I think what discussions have been that it will be after this season of play, but there's going to be a little bit of lag time for when the building's proposed to be constructed of precast panels, and that's just an industry that's kind of lagging behind right now. So there's a little bit of a bump until when you see panels. So I think the plan was that demolition of that would happen next spring or sometime late this fall, depending on when the district wanted to do that. That's something that's going to be done outside of this bid package. So there's some flexibility in there for you of when that happens, but I know that it's been a concern of this teams to make sure that that's coordinated with the soccer tribe, and that play can happen as long as possible, and that it's kind of minimize the gap between when construction starts and when and all of that's taken.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we are accommodating some new parking spots around the building for staff and for visitors. And then we'll have, you can see in the gray area, that's new pavement. There will be a new curb cut and drive to the north there. This will allow people to get in the morning without that overflow or cross traffic with bus traffic there. So, and then the rest will, and then also we'll be using that to utilize kind of that flow after your ball games and things like that when there are larger events out of that parking lot. So, next slide. All right, so what we have in the upper portion of the plan are the administrative offices. They're all zoned so that typically there is office space for your directors and then an assistant director and then an administrative position with each of the director or the areas of work in the building and the administrative suite. There's also some support spaces such as a larger conference room and then some storage area to supplement those office and work areas. There is a driver check-in station that you'll see there. Drivers will come in the morning and have that lounge and training area available to them. And then we'll go out to their vehicles and do their work for the day and then come back through and check back in that way. So on the maintenance side of things, we have a wash bay over to the lower right. And then if I move over toward the left on the plan, you have 3 large maintenance bays. One of those is a pull-through, so you can bring a bus all the way through and around on the site. And then there will be a hoist above one of the bays so that you can lift engines and do that kind of work as well. Then moving over to the left from there, there is space for food, it's called food warehouse down here, but this would also be doubled as facility storage. There is a cooler shown there now to support the food service work and storage of their food products. And then moving again over to the left, We have small part storage, and then also we have the print and mailroom area there. All right, next slide. The next slide is showing the upper portion. So we do have an area above the IT work area and small part storage, and also the print and mail room. That's going to be like a mezzanine, if you want to think about it that way. It's technically by code considered a second floor, but it's going to be a large just storage, general storage area there for you to maximize. We needed some building height for the overall maintenance phase, and so we're going to utilize that to give you some additional storage, general storage there. So. All right, next slide. The next image is the always exciting roof plan. We looked at, we're going to do a single slope on this so that you're not paying a premium for insulation, which if any of you are in the construction or hear about the construction industry, minimizing your insulation right now is a good idea. So we will have just one unit up on the top of the roof there that you can see in that rectangular area, and some walk pads around that. There will be some screening per city code requirements there as well. The longer, leaner rectangle up on the left, the upper portion to the smaller rectangle at the top, I guess, around on the left, that's a lower roof, and we'll take a look at that in the 3D images that will be coming up on the next slide. Right. This is just a quick look at what the building is going to look like three-dimensionally. The administrative offices are a little bit lower roof, so you can identify that as a separate piece of the building. And then all of that taller portion would be your high bay spaces for maintenance and storage and service and all of that type of thing. The building is going to be constructed out of precast, which would be similar to your other facilities, so it feels like part of a cohesive plan for the district in this area of your campus. We are looking at, you can see the window pattern across there. We have spent time looking at daylighting studies and just really trying to get some natural daylight into the building for your staff. Just makes a much more pleasant workspace when they can have some access to natural daylight. So we'll have a consistent pattern of that. Otherwise, we really focused on keeping detailing simple and straightforward so that you have a really nice looking building that's going to last a long time, but nothing that is like, you know, I don't know, we're trying to keep it pretty straightforward for you, I guess, to maximize how many square feet you could get instead of doing something fancy with the wall panels or something like that. So, we do have on the back side of the building or the service side overhead doors there. Those also will have clear glass lights in them to let daylight through, and then there's some windows above those doors as well. So I'm going to try and maximize daylight into the space, keep down your lighting levels if you can, and it gets, again, it just makes a more pleasant work area for your staff. All right, next slide. This is a ceiling plan, so if you're just to look at the ceiling tiles in your facility, most of the high bay area is going to be exposed structure that we'll be painting. And then the administrative offices and into the small part storage and print and mail room and IT operations or workroom area, that will have a similar ceiling to what you have in your boardroom here. It will be a 2x2 tile, LED light fixtures in there. All right, next slide. We can go two more ahead there. Right, this plan here, as you dig into that, shows you the finishes that we're proposing for the project. In the large maintenance areas, we're looking at sealed concrete there. That will be a heated slab. Also, just to improve the maintenance and the longevity of the space and the comfort for your staff that are working in there consistently. In the office areas, we're looking at a combination of polished concrete and then carpet tile. And then the walls will all just be painted. Some of the walls are framed. We do have some precast walls that frame out the higher maintenance space, but the remainder of the walls within the administrative suite would be frame walls with drywall on them, and then we'll paint those out. All right, and then the last slide, I guess there's two more. The last two slides will just show you what that looks like fitted out with equipment. We have done some testing just to make sure everything is going to fit. That is planned to go into the building. again, the team has done a good job of identifying both kind of your current needs and some future expansion into this space so that you're not having the same conversation a few years down the road because you're out of room. So kudos to your teams here that have really dug in and kind of thought about that ahead. So with that, really quick snapshot of what that looks like. With your approval this evening, what we would like to suggest is that we put these plans out on the street for bidding tomorrow. Wanted to get your approval on that first, and then we would have a bidding period that would extend through the end of March. So looking at Tuesday, March 29th to receive costs on that here at the district offices, and then we will be vetting that and just making sure everything's up to speed. And then the proposal in your packet is to have the public hearing and the presentation of those bids and a recommendation for award of contracts at your April 12th meeting.
Thank you. Any questions from any of the board members?
You read the 500 pages, didn't you?
It was more than that. It was like,
That's the detail that you get to, so, yeah.
Best case scenario,
Mm-hmm.
we get bids back, we want to move forward, start to finish, when would the building be operational?
Sure. It's a great question because again, you have this like time. So once you receive bids in April, we would release the bidders to put together shop drawings for the precast, especially because that's going to be your longest lead time aside from some of the mechanical equipment. But we will want to procure that right away. And so a little bit after that is going to depend on when contracting teams want to start, because you could get in and do your earthwork and foundations and things, but you don't want to leave those unprotected for too long. So we suspect what's going to happen is that real construction is going to start in the spring, because then they can come in. They might do utility work ahead of it this fall, but I would suspect, unless it's a really, really nice winter this year, that you'll see most activity starting in the spring. So let's say early March, they'll come out and start moving things around. And then you're going to look at a construction period of about 12 months, so likely. Now, the precast can go up pretty quickly once they have that done. I don't think we set a timeline that this has to be complete, and that would be something for your consideration. But we did not send a direct milestone that this has to be complete. So that's something we'd like to add. We'd like to know that just to give them some flexibility and trying to accommodate the kind of rigors of the bidding world right now. So there's some really unique challenges out there at this time with that.
The biggest challenge is the precast, because tell them how long precast lead times are.
Yeah, so when you order, the day you order precast right now, it's 8 to 10 months until you receive your product, your first panel on site. We looked at alternative systems as well. So if you were to go to a pre-engineered metal building, which would be another, reasonable option for this type of facility that has a similar lead time. And there was the desire to kind of blend in and match your other facilities, so it seemed like the right move to make there. So that's the thing that triggers like when you can start. So overall duration of construction, you might be able to squeeze it to 8 to 10 months, but it's likely a 12-month project, I would guess.
So we're looking 24 to 30 months from now.
I think if you, probably not quite 24, I guess. If we start in March and then have another, that would be 12 months. Plus, yeah, I guess so. You're getting close to 24. I don't think you'll be out to the 30. I think it'll be less than that. Probably the 24 would be the furthest that would extend out.
From today's date.
From today's date, correct. Yep. And we have had the conversations to see if there's anything we could do to specify panels a certain way, to speed that up, and, it just is what it is. So what we have done is to have the conversations to make them the most economical way to construct them, and it makes them desirable to more companies. So we're hoping that by putting that in place, that also they can get it into the production line sometime, earlier.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two separate items to vote on here under letter B. 56.
Make a motion to approve the project's plans and specifications.
Motion made by Sue to approve. Seconded by Mac. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then the second one as well.
Make a motion to set the date for the project's public hearing for April 12, 2022 at 5:30 p.m.
Motion made by Sue again. Second. Seconded by Mac. Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is our monthly. Thank you
Thank you.
again. Appreciate
Good
it.
luck at the ballgame.
Thanks for all your grace and all of this.
All the work, yeah.
Next is the monthly financials.
For January, you see the balance sheet. Don't ask any questions. I mean, kind of the same thing you're seeing as the general fund is much healthier from year to year. Again, cash flow is looking good right now. A lot of, that's COVID, that's mainly, as we get this we got this influx of cash that's putting us above where we've been in the past. And so after that goes away, I think it's going to go back down again. So be aware of that as you look at that. The last page, which is the graph that shows how high we are, that'll go, back down again.
A 1-year thing.
Or two, maybe, yeah.
Can you remind me of the Pearl Fund again? What that is?
Pearl Fund is a recreation levy, so it's playgrounds and community ed. And to date, we have not spent a dime. It's more of a savings now for projects.
Hold in place for future projects. Any questions for Jonna on the monthly financials? Just need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the monthly financial report for January 2022.
Motion made by Ben.
Second.
Seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is the 2022-2023 budget development tax rates.
It's we kind of talked at, I don't know if we want to speak to the finance committee meetings because this is kind of coming off of that. You'll see the tax rates. This is more for information for, one of the places where we have some ability to use, increase or decrease our levy to try to help fund future, management is to fund future early retirement policies or all our insurance, our breakdown insurance, those type of things are what we use for that. So you're able to kind of cash flow in there to help keep then, as you look at our preliminary tax certifications, you can see that we're similar to where we were last year. I think last year we're at $17.99 and some odd hundreds and thousands of percent or cents. So the management fund at this point would help us to get a little bit of a reserve as we look towards the future of possible early retirements. Again, the close to $400,000 in the fixed insurance comes out of that as well. That's new in the last couple of years. So
I see this, you guys, as more of a long-term strategy for us because, one, we want to try to keep our tax rate, I feel like, either the same, similar to previous years, or decreasing, to make sure that we're using our money correctly and stuff, and we have been able to do that in years past. But with us putting it, maybe pushing more money towards the management fund, that allows us then, hopefully we could back off in years in the future when maybe we would have to allocate more money towards debt service, which that can't go any higher than 4.05.
right.
So when we talk about future construction for the high school, we can't increase more than 4.05, so that wouldn't be able to be a factor of increasing the tax rate. So I guess I see it as a longer-term strategy to try to keep things even for the taxpayers in our district. Knowing the city and the county are both taking reductions, we've taken reductions in the past few years, so
Yeah.
that's always something to know. Like, when you talk to the community, let them know we've taken those reductions in years past. This year, we're trying to hold even, knowing that we've got a project coming up, or potential project coming up, maybe a high school where we might need to hold to that 4.05% on the debt service breakdown, or that line item there, so that's the way I see it, I guess. I don't know how you, Mac and Tim.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that one, I'm not supposed to talk about the finance, but I guess.
Or are you not in finance?
I am.
You are, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But I guess my thoughts on that are, we talked about trying to keep things on a constant continuum. And I think that that is wise. I think it provides predictability to our families in the district, and I just think that's a good way of doing business personally.
In the last 10 years, you can look at the management fund on that sheet that's showing right now and see how it fluctuates. As things are needed, we increase it. As we don't need it, we decrease it. So it's not that we're trying to get the most cash in the bank for that, so.
This is something we're not voting on this. This is just
No,
information.
that's just informational.
Okay.
But I think you can expect as we bring a budget proposal forward for next year, it'll be similar to this. You know, this is,
When is that?
The next, well, we'll bring the one for publishing, approval for publishing at the 8th meeting, the March 8th meeting.
Yep.
I mean, if we needed to do anything, we could push it to the 22nd, because we'd probably publish it end of March, early April is when we'd publish it, so.
Well, this said, I thought I saw March 22nd. Oh,
March
budget
22nd.
review and approval for publishing will need to be continued.
March 22nd. That's the last time, there's still some, I mean, right now, that's our preliminary numbers, that 1797. There's still some pieces that are getting finished, like one of them is our income tax.
Yep.
That piece will get thrown in here about first part of March. March 8th might be too early, so I think we said the 22nd, so, yeah. So we do have to have that meeting on the 22nd. Remember, you guys wanted to maybe not do that?
We do.
It's just one item on that, if we're gonna do it.
And if you guys are ever in conversations with the public and they bring up the taxes, and, you know, sometimes you run into, you guys have probably seen it on your own tax forms and stuff, your property tax forms, like when you hear your taxing authorities say they've decreased, and all of a sudden you see your rate go up. A lot of times it has to do with your valuation. The valuations go up, so that makes it seem as if, well, now I'm paying more in my taxes, you know, every 6 months there. So that's a good conversation for you to have with the community if you run into that, to just remind them that even though, yeah, we may decrease, your valuations may go up, and that can cause a tax increase, so.
Is the debt service the only fund that has a max? Or do they all have a maximum limit?
the PEPAL is set between voted PEPAL and board-approved PEPAL. The PEARL is set at a maximum 13.5 cents.
General fund is a formula it's not set easy, I mean, it's not just 13.5, it's set within the aid and levy worksheet as that calculates out. So there, you just can't you can't just tax till the cows come home. You have to, right, you know.
Right.
So really, yeah, management.
Probably would, wouldn't you, John?
I mean, you have management is where you obviously have some decision-making authority as a board.
Cash
And
reserve is the other piece, but if you've already maxed out, you're done with that as well. So really, management is your place to work on that, but.
I was just curious, seeing that the 2019-2020 tax year was 216. I just was curious, I guess, as to where the management.
That was right before we were building it up for an early retirement position, or to be in position for an early retirement. When the early retirements, different plans work different ways. We're still paying out some of the early retirement payments from the 2014 year.
15, yeah.
And the board at the time decided for this last one that we did, was to pay it out, and it was paid out, everybody got their payment up front.
Lump sum versus so much a month
For the
toward
rest of your, for
insurance.
10 years or whatever. So this is, you know, they can have their money, what they receive in the early retirement benefit, and they use it as they see fit, versus we hold it. It seems silly that we hold it. So to build that up, that's what we did. But we still saw I think $1 decrease that year as well in our taxes.
When we do those early retirements, do those go into a 403B or cash?
The last, again, it depends on the plan that we do. Last year, we had an HRA choice, or if they were insured by us, they got an HRA. If they weren't insured by us, they got a 403B. So we do save the FICA forever, so that's good.
And then kind of just moving into the finance committee
Yep,
report.
kind of talks about that at the beginning, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've done the tax rates for number one, going on to number two. Oh, yeah.
That's an ongoing thing.
Yeah. This is just a projection of where we were looking, I guess, for teachers with current staff, those replacing, and then as Mimi, finds people and stuff to fill those replacements will get filled in. Of course, when we have a teacher that's been here for a while versus a new teacher, a lot of times we see savings in those categories, which then can be used below when we're looking at maybe adding new positions or, new positions to the district. However, I think you can see there, your new money in that bolded line at the very bottom, remaining after staff changes, we will be deficit spending more than likely at 161,000, is it?
Yeah, but
That's
she's
estimated.
updated that from what we had at the
Yeah.
thing, so that's a good
Cool.
news, good news story.
And then the packages are not set for sure either because we don't have our insurance increase yet. So we don't have, so those, it's going to go up more than that, we know, but we don't have that information yet. We're close, but we don't have it.
Which is okay, because we have the money set aside to be able to do this and stuff. We just have to watch that, I think.
I mean, and, there's going to be an increase of some property tax as well. This is the state aid side.
This
There's
is the
property
state aid
tax
side.
as well. So, yeah.
So just just to keep in mind, I guess, at a high level there. Then we went into the self-funded insurance. We just looked at, we kind of had some questions at a previous board meeting just about, what kind of procedures were being done. So staying real high level, because we don't want to get into people's personal lives and stuff like that, but like real high level, there was just some interesting information that the insurance company was able to provide us about what types of claims were being used throughout the district and kind of the ups and downs of how those have been over the last few years here.
There is one error that I made. At the 28% for telehealth on page 80 at the top of the page, it should be the 47%. I pulled the wrong information. So mental health telehealth visits are 47% of all our telehealth visits, which that works well with a telehealth visit, that type of a doctor visit, but it is noted, so.
John, I don't remember if we talked about this or you kind of maybe given a high overview, level of where we're at on the plan that we have and how we
Self-funded
may
piece.
have to, make some movement on that.
Right now, first blush on our insurance rates, it sounds like most plans have increased between 10 and 15 to 20%. We're looking at it between 10 and 15%. But because if you look at the very top of that, number 3, it shows that we have about $1.5 million in that account. And the goal when we set up the self-funded fund was to be able to weather the storm when there's higher increases. So that Wellmark is working on numbers to try and, as we look at different plan types, we have 3 different plans, 1,000, 2,500, and a 5,000 deductible plans. And they're looking at plan design to see if there's tweaks we can make that would help save some of that so that doesn't go on premium, that it would be actually on usage. So, and you see, as you look through that, you saw that we do have high usage right now. And that's what we have it for. So Right now, as we look at it, and the other piece to that is we've added some, we haven't done the transfer yet for the COVID funds that we talked about, and self-funded dental is in this plan too. So, and that's minimal, really, but
We wouldn't be able to do that if we did not have a self-funded. We'd
if
be
you were,
locked in place, so.
if you were fully funded, you just take that 15% and say, thank you. Yeah, so we feel that we've done the right thing, and we're positioned well to move forward doing this. And, at the most, you could lose probably half your fund in a year, and then you would be able to react to that, if that were the case, if that was worst case scenario. But, what we've seen through the years, you're gonna have some years that are higher, some years that are lower. We're still pretty.
How have the last couple of years been? Pretty right on.
As you look at that little grid at the top, you see that we saved, $766,000 the first year
Okay.
from what was actually expended. And then another $529,000 the next year.
So rates held even.
And we're projected, so this was, Tim had asked me a question, so the projection for this year right now is a negative 111,000 at the end of the year. And that's projecting, not for sure yet, so.
Really, rates increasing 1 out of the 3 years.
We were pretty much even last year, yeah.
That wouldn't be, would that be usage as well as rates, though?
Usage is basically tied to the rates. So
Okay.
they look at how much, so the actual expense is usage, is claims paid.
Okay.
So they try to estimate what it'll be and make those, and so basically it's a math calculation on how many singles do you have, how many of each plan, how many, and then what premium amount can suffice to be what Wellmark says they need from their underwriters. That's
I was
kind of
looking
what.
at doing some like screenings, correct me if I'm wrong, to hopefully help like the future where people can catch some things early or see.
That's one of the things that, it's not really a wellness plan of sorts, but it would be a wellness item to help with whoever wants to do it. You can have spouses do it if they paid the $55, so.
And they do work, I mean, those types of things catch things early all the time for people and stuff that wouldn't have known about that because they don't go to the doctor and then they find out, oh, I need to get this in check, so.
I don't want to know.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions in that? Sorry, I guess number 4 was Pepple and Safe budgets, but you guys saw those up above, so.
I don't think we really had any changes in those budgets, right? We just
The
provided them.
Pepple Save is the same right now, yeah.
Okay, we'll move on then to the child care staffing shortage. And just the increase there, looking at.
Right, Director Kim Post she's been trying to hire, she's lost all but one of her site supervisors in the last year because if you've noticed, there's a lot of focus on childcare right now, and so some of her former employees are going out and doing childcare on their own because they can. So she's replaced all but one of her site supervisors. She's struggling to even find Simpson and high school students to do the job. She suggested, Art and I talked about this, and it kind of came in because she said, I think I'm going to have to close a site and then push everybody to another site, which they've not done that before. They do it on a snow day. We put them all on one site or 2 sites, but we don't do that. We don't typically do that. And maybe that's a new realm, but she said, could we, because number one, they are a self-funded group, they have to make sure that they cash flow solvently. Can we try to increase rates to see if we can get some takers? She said it may not work, but I don't know what I'm going to do if we don't. So, and the childcare positions are unique because you go from 6 to 8 in the morning, and then you go in the evening. So it's not always desired by a lot of people.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons she does try to tap into the Simpson students, the high school students, very flexible with her scheduling, because that is it's different.
Yeah.
Got that split day like that.
Does she feel like this new rate will be enough to attract?
Well, we're going to try through the end of the year, then we're looking at doing another increase then for the July, for the summer's hits. So, again, she doesn't know that it's going to help, but.
Okay.
Is this all paid out through HR, just like the associate positions?
Paid out, what do you mean, paid out?
Is it its own entity, or is this
Yes,
still?
it is its own entity. So childcare and food service are proprietary, so they have to stand alone funding wise. So when you look at the financials, it shows that they are separate, where the rest of, our general fund pretty much hits everything else, so,
But as far as the paychecks, they come from the Renovation Community School District?
yeah.
If this doesn't work, what do we?
I don't know. I don't know. Then I think that maybe they do look at combining some of the sites. That would not be as desirable, number one, for students having to be bused now, which they hadn't had to be bused before.
These rates are comparable to other areas.
Other childcare, we've been on the upper part of it, so
Okay.
I think we've paid well.
Okay.
People are there. Not knocking down the doors yet.
Well, it might change with the unemployment and all that stuff completely changing and out of the proclamation emergency and
Stopping now, yeah.
benefits. And I mean, there's a lot of changes coming down here that are gonna probably affect some people's financial bottom line here. And maybe
Force people back into the
that'll
workforce.
maybe
Bring 'em
bring in
bring 'em
some
out.
people here and there that are just looking for some extra income. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting the next 3 months and how
See
Iowa
anything.
responds.
This would be an action item, guys,
To increase the
to increase the rate.
wages.
It was 3, yeah.
So are those all three separate?
We can make it one big one, yeah.
I will make a motion to increase the hourly rate for all three positions, childcare provider, college student, and high school students by 50 cents an hour.
Okay. Motion made by Matt to approve, seconded by Sue. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, next is facilities project update.
There's really very little changed here. We're still waiting on the things we were waiting on, like the acoustical tile and some of the trim in the auditorium. We did move forward the auxiliary services things tonight with the two action items that you had. High school renovation, you heard Carrie allude to Laura doing a lot of work on that. That's kind of spinning back up. There was a catch-up meeting here last week for 3 new members on that, and there are different focus groups coming up. And the goal is to continue moving those conversations forward. The earliest that we'd ever talked about a potential bond issue was next September. That could end up being the following spring, but whichever it is, we want to get that conversation going again. Still waiting on materials for Laura Ingalls Wilder. Those rooms are framed out and just waiting the padding. And then things are moving forward. You've approved the contract with Shive Hattery for the renovations to the middle school this next summer. That continues to move forward here. And there are always summer projects too. And I think, just trying to figure out where the priorities are. Bernie does a nice job of going through the buildings, checking out the sites, working cooperatively with the principals and others. And we're able to get quite a bit of work done in the summer too, so. Anything to add there, Jonna?
Yeah, we did cancel the facilities meeting on the 3rd because
Okay.
So we also have a public hearing on March 22nd. That involves off-site conversion.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be, typically our public hearings are kind of a formality, shouldn't be a long thing.
So you have a public hearing on the 22nd for this. You have a public hearing on the 12th for the auxiliary building, but also for the budget. There'll be one on the 22nd, or the 12th of April as well.
Yeah, the 22nd will be the approving the publication of the tax rate, right? And the 12th will be actual approval of the budget.
Yeah.
Because John has to get that to the county by the 15th, I think, right?
And a public hearing for that other auxiliary building.
22nd and 12th.
Yep, correct.
Okay, next is the board policies. Thanks, Art.
Yep. These are second reading. You gave first reading approval last meeting. I haven't heard any concerns or needs for revision in between the meetings here. So I think we're ready for a second reading.
Need a motion for the second reading. Approval of the second reading.
Motion to approve the second reading of the listed board policies.
Motion made by Ben to approve, seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is the student discipline report from our Officer Hackett.
Yep, this would be new, those of you who came on in November, each quarter, try to give you a rundown of both school discipline that involved suspensions as well as all of the calls that our SRO was on. We don't want this to be a privacy thing, so, we give you the information to give you a flavor for what's going on in terms of grade level. We don't break it out by building or anything personally identifiable. So you see the first couple of pages are suspensions where it says duration days, and that includes in-school suspension. That includes everything from attendance policy violation. If they, at the high school, for example, if they don't serve a detention, then it turns into an in-school suspension. I did ask for clarification because I thought you might ask, partway down the front page where it says weapon-related, 11/5/2021. We are a little bit restrained by what our choices are in the drop-down menu, and that actually was not really a weapon situation. There was no threat, there was no firearm, anything like that. The specific situation was there was a kid who had a pocket knife, didn't want it anymore, gave it to another kid. It was observed and reported, which I feel fine about, that people notice that. So really it's more a matter of contraband, hey, you shouldn't have had a pocket knife at school, than it was any kind of a weapon situation. So just for clarification on that. And then you see a different look in the SRO report. This is just out of their system, all the calls that the SRO was involved in. You'll see things like, traffic things and welfare checks. So, these didn't all occur on school grounds either. But as we talked about when we first began our relationship with the city, having this SRO here on site, if there is something at school, then we're not pulling somebody off of patrol or something and waiting. He's right there. And then there are times when he's not engaged at school, that he might be dealing with something else. So if this doesn't make sense, or you want a different kind of report, or you want a personal report, I know Officer Hackett would come into and talk to you. So this is what I've given in the past, what he's provided.
How long is our contract with the city?
It's an annual renewal.
But he might be able to answer this more. Or is there any certain trends we're seeing over this year or last year that we haven't seen previously? Has he talked to any about illegal substances this year are much higher than they've ever been, or? Is there any areas that we are lacking in either training or education for our students?
I haven't had Officer Hackett share that with me. I do know we have seen on several occurrences the THC wax show up at the high school. So there's some place that kids are able to get that pretty easily. That's concerning. I will say in terms of just sheer numbers, there were probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 years ago, we were probably seeing more vaping, both middle school and high school, than we are right now, but that would continue to be a concern. Officer Hackett has not brought any one thing to my attention, though, I guess, to answer your original question. I'd say another trend is one of the side benefits of the pandemic, the shortened school day, and then just everybody being so happy to be back to school. We had a couple of these quarterly reports on the school side where we just hardly had any discipline at all. And it's ticked up a little bit, but I don't think anything out of the norm.
Hey, Art?
Yeah.
Do these, this list here, does it represent, when it shows the grade?
Yep.
And you have duplications of the same thing, in some instances, is that the same individual? Or are they
That's a
all
great
separate?
question, and you know what, we had, and that's something I can start doing again. Back when my assistant superintendent did this report, that question came up, and he actually went back and looked and highlighted if it was the same one. I'd say there's a very high likelihood. I know that happens, and I can tell you as a former principal of 10 years, you tend to get about 5% maybe of your students that give you about 80 or 90% of your discipline. So there undoubtedly are repeats in there.
20%, take 80% of your time.
So that's a great question. I don't have that for you. I can try to, we can potentially try to figure out how to do that. I haven't run the report that way myself.
Well, even if it was highlighted and had a legend, so if it's green, then, that's a second.
Yeah, I'll see if we can figure out a way to, at one time we did that because that same question was raised, and I'd kind of forgotten about that.
Next is the school district board calendar. I think everything's updated on here. Everybody good with everything?
Is it March 1st, is that 5? And May, is that 5?
They both are on there. Does it show that way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just,
Yep.
okay, they're both on.
Is food service catering the March 1st evening?
We haven't done anything with that. We could do a sack lunch. Would you prefer to have that? I haven't,
Just so that, how long do you think that meeting will last?
I don't know, guys, it's up to you
That's where
guys.
we see them all and watch video, right?
Yeah, you'd watch, so their goal, I believe, is to bring 10 or start the discussion, and the goal is to have 10 to choose from.
Is that next Tuesday?
It's next Tuesday. Yeah. And then you would leave that meeting with 6. That would be then on the Saturday. The goal is we would have a breakfast, like a yogurt and fruit as breakfast, and then a sack lunch for that. So,
Are we talking about breakfast?
Oh, it's Saturday.
Oh,
You said you'd buy.
I'm like, oh, you won't be getting yogurt if I buy. I'm getting something better.
Rouse's is king.
Yeah.
Oh,
I see the top of the agenda for March 8th still says 5:30, but that's a 5 o'clock. Looking ahead to that next tentative agenda.
March 8th.
Art, the other thing that I got thinking about yesterday or the day before, will you be gone for graduation?
I hope not. I'm scheduled for hip replacement May 9th. I recovered pretty quickly last time. I won't be gone as in out of the district. Hopefully I already have some welcome remarks ready. I hope I'll be able to deliver them, so.
I can push you up the ramp or in your wheelchair.
They haven't had the ramp the last couple of years, and I said to Mr. Seabrist, might be a good year to bring it back if I'm crunching up.
We could all probably carry on our shoulders.
Well, there you go.
Do the Rocky music, please.
Bamboo sticks. Lion King or something like that.
Wow, this is a creative group we got here.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Oh, wait, next board agenda, are you guys good with everything on the agenda? Anything needs to be on the agenda? And always just let Art or myself know, just in advance if you guys want something on there.
Are you wanting me to try to change that date for the theater?
the 22nd,
know
well,
we
Board meeting
none
day.
of us would be able, you know, because we would be here. Unless they're gonna do, are they gonna do a later one? You could possibly done by 7.
Yeah.
You know.
But
There wasn't
Someone's gonna have to.
There wasn't much on that calendar
That's why
for
we did
events
it.
that night, which is why we picked it, but maybe you can go the 21st, maybe you can go the Monday instead of the Tuesday or something.
What night was this supposed to be?
Well, we just picked Tuesday, because Monday's the first night back after spring break.
March
Yeah, that's right, 22nd.
People are not gonna,
But, yeah,
well, we're trying to stay away
But that board
from.
meeting should be short, right?
practices
The
and all
22nd.
I just want
Should.
to.
Just one item. Oh, you think that, it'll be a regular,
It should be a regular one, but we'll try to keep, I mean,
We
I'm trying to
try
think.
to keep it short.
Yeah.
And I might just phone in. Because if they are going through corporate and it's taking them 3 weeks to find a date,
yeah.
I'm not gonna have them go
Might
all
change
the way
it,
back to
yeah.
corporate to try to do.
Okay.
I think Mac made a motion.
Motion made by Mac to adjourn,
Second.
seconded by Sue. In favor of that, say aye. Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thanks,
Good job,
everyone.
guys. Got us done in time for the game.
Yes.
Looks like I can watch it.